So Sound of Illuminati asks this question about Oregon, particularly as it relates to Dante Moore, assumed starting quarterback of the Oregon Ducks. How much less difficult do you think the Penn State game could be if Moore is just awesome, instantly, such as freshman Trevor Lawrence or Jeremiah Smith? Enough that if Aller manages to mess up late in the game like he did last year, it'd get the Ducks out with the win. So essentially, Dante Moore at the beginning of the year will be a top 10 quarterback. What if that happens? How would Dante Moore being at least elite for most of the year and starting out as a great quarterback like that? That's actually the first time I've documented myself snapping with my left hand, even if it was bad. Maybe I should give myself a pat on the back. How much would that change? Especially given the context that Oregon's outside the top 100 in returning production. They only return 43% of their production. And Dante Moore struggled at UCLA as a true freshman, and he sat behind Dylan Gabriel for a season. Taking all of that into consideration, that would change everything. That would make Oregon into a national championship contender, guaranteed. In fact, I will go even further and say that if Dante Moore is like freshman Trevor Lawrence, they will be a better team than what they were last season. Before I explain why that is, make sure, especially if you're an Oregon fan, because we need more of you, to like the video, hit the notification bell, also hit the bell on the Oregon Football Podcast in the description. That way you'll get notified whenever I talk about Oregon football. Give the channel a subscription. Comment your thoughts on Oregon's potential if Dante Moore is an elite quarterback down below. And join our Discord server via the link in the description or down below in a reply to the pinned comment. So that way we can engage with you more on college football with Sam. Thank you very much. It would change everything. To have Dante Moore being elite in a single year of him starting means a few things. A, Oregon is going to be a contender for not just this coming year, but a national title contender probably for the following year. I don't think that Moore having 1 year of that type of tape, of 2018 freshman Trevor Lawrence tape, would get him as high draft capital as he possibly could, just because of his freshman year, only starting for a year. He'd probably return for 26, and with all the youth that Oregon has, Oregon could be the number 1 team entering 26. It would certainly upgrade Oregon's potential, their talent profile. It would also help them win big games and even compensate for some of the issues on defense. You guys all know that I'm not high on Lupoy at all. If you've watched this channel, I think that Lupoy will have to be fired if Oregon wants to win a title under Dan Lanning. But if Dante Moore comes out and he is a top 5 quarterback and at some points possibly the best quarterback in America, well, there's always exceptions to the rule. I mean, Pete Golding never fielded elite defenses at Alabama. Never. And they won a title and nearly won another with him as a DC because they had Heisman caliber quarterbacks. They had elite wide receivers. They had some just freaks on defense that would compensate for what Golding did. And Golding's a good DC. I think he's better than what Lupoy is, but by no means is Golding an elite, one of the top DCs in America. His best DCs, his best defensive seasons have been with insane talent. And when he doesn't quite have that insane talent, his defenses are in no way top 5, certainly top 10. I think that the Penn State game is definitely in play, no matter what. But it's in no way going to be a Penn State runaway if Moore is that good. Penn State does have some questions on defense, especially depth-wise. I think their starters are some of the best, if not the best in America. But depth-wise at certain positions, they do have questions. And if Oregon also pans out at wide receiver and on the offense overall, in addition to Moore being potentially this Trevor Lawrence-level young quarterback, then they probably will score on Penn State's defense a little bit. Penn State has the edges in the current matchup, as we know. Moore is not proven. Many think he'll be worse than Drew Aller. Penn State has O-line continuity and superior recruiting and depth. They have better tight end depth, although Oregon is the best overall tight end potentially in college football. Penn State has better running backs coming back, and they upgraded at receiver in the portal, and Oregon upgraded through high school, and I think Moore is going to be really good. But Penn State, by the returning production numbers and the power ratings, especially for S&P Plus, will have the better offense. And then on top of that, you look at defense. We all know from looking at the Rose Bowl that Knowles is a much better D coordinator than Lupoy. You can even look at the first Oregon game, and both defenses got worked, not just Knowles' defense in that first regular season Oregon matchup. And I think that Penn State has denied Anna Sutton, A.J. Harris. They have about the same amount of NFL talent in terms of first-rounders. I know that Oregon is Mateo Uriungalele. Penn State actually would have more if both Harris and Anna Sutton are picked that high. And they've done a much better job recruiting and developing on defense. In terms of stars, not exactly, but in terms of finding fits and having a good culture on defense, developing and calling plays, they've been better than Oregon recently. That game, to me, looks like a game where, unless James Franklin has one of the worst games of his career and Lanning has one of his best, that looks to me like a Penn State win, and definitely one that could be in, double digits, 2, 3, even 4 scores, potentially. Not saying that's what will happen. More likely than not, Oregon loses, but it's not by more than a touchdown or 10 points or 14 points. However, I can see it getting ugly. If Moore is that good, the game probably doesn't get that ugly, especially as I think with Penn State's defense and some of the questions that they have and what Oregon has on offense in terms of potential and talent, that Penn State's defense will probably get better as the season goes on. It's better for Oregon to travel to Happy Valley, even if it's in the whiteout in September, October, than it is in November or in the playoffs. And then you look at some of their other games, like on the road against Iowa. You're not losing to Iowa on the road with Trevor Lawrence and the talent you have. If Moore's just average or even just good, that could be a loss. But with some of the questions Iowa has and their lack of talent, if Moore is that good, your ceiling isn't just risen. Your floor is, your floor is one of the highest in America, especially with the schedule. And there won't be a slow start to the season either if he starts off that hot, like there was in 2024. The near loss to Boise State, the near disaster against Idaho, which would have been the equivalent of App State beating Michigan. In fact, it may have even been worse because App State was the number 1 FCS team and Michigan was top 5. Oregon preseason was, I think, top 4. And I don't even think Idaho was preseason top 10 in the FCS, which is insane because that's one of the biggest, if not the biggest upset in college football, is that App State over Michigan win. So if Moore is elite, if he's a top 10, top 5 quarterback as a freshman, or even better than that, shows moments of being the best like Trevor Lawrence was in 2018, that changes everything. Oregon would immediately be I would say, top 3 team guaranteed, if not top 2, if I know that Moore is that good, because they have so much talent that could pan out or that has panned out at other positions, to where plugging him in with that roster, assuming he is that good, if the question's answered in a positive manner, that means Oregon's going to destroy probably every team on their schedule except for Penn State on the road. And then you go to Indy, see what happens in Indy, and they would certainly win some playoff games. Certainly. So that's the answer to that question. Thank you for bringing it in. Really appreciate it. It would absolutely change everything. Don't know if it's going to happen. Would be inclined to say he's not going to be quite that good in year 1, but with his talent and with Oregon's system, it is possible. And I'm certainly leaning more towards him being elite than a total disaster.